Hey everyone. So I am Roberto. I am the head of engineering over at Mode. I've been working at Mode for about, give or take, about a year or so. And I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about how we have been merging payments with crypto. So I'll start off with what exactly is Mode, right? Let me just put this thing in full screen. So what exactly um, is Mode? So basically the app started off as a very simple way for people to buy and sell crypto and to essentially also create savings accounts with crypto. We wanted to expand a little bit, so kind of start bringing in merchants and give people a better way of growing their crypto holdings, essentially. Because one of the things that we don't believe in crypto as a means to exchange, but as a store of value. So basically, an asset. So we were thinking of how can we actually make people earn more Bitcoin by doing day-to-day things like uh, paying uh, with their credit card or paying with even their phone. So from that, we kind of started going like, what exactly kind of challenges are we facing when building a system like this? So number one, we have a legacy system that is very much based around managing our crypto holdings, essentially. And the second stage is how do I bypass Visa and MasterCard and essentially offer a payments rail that doesn't necessarily use a card, but can use, for instance, a QR code, and also gives us the ability to essentially control the entirety of the flow of the payment. Um, Another aspect is how could we leverage open banking and essentially enable transactions with an incredibly small fee so we can actually become a little bit more attractive to merchants. And how can we do immediate settlements? Because this is actually a very huge issue for merchants in particular. Because a lot of them, they don't actually want to get paid in crypto, they actually want to get paid in fiat. And one of their main problems is that they're actually have to wait a few days, if not even close to a month, in order for them to actually get settlements for their payments. And how can we develop a brand new system and still make it work with our current crypto offering without actually breaking the current functionality of the system? So our main approach when doing a lot of this stuff was, well, I guess the first stage is we basically hired a brand new team for pretty much everything that we were doing. Um, and we started going very, very heavily towards the DevOps and automations first. We started going, we started doing domain-driven design as well. So I'm not going to go too much into it. If you guys want more details on exactly how that works, I'm more than happy to talk about that after this talk. We focus a lot on creating cross-functional teams as well, mostly because there's a lot of crypto knowledge that is kind of hidden away within certain people, and ensuring that those people exist within a development team becomes quite very important. And obviously, we're designing a payments system. It's in completely brand new payments rail. Um, so think of it like we're almost building a different kind of Visa and Mastercard essentially. So resilience, availability, and the ability for the system to be self-healing was incredibly important. Plus, we also needed an ability to isolate and eventually apply some sort of strangulation to the legacy system. Again, I'm not going to go into too many details, but if people are curious, I'm more than happy to talk about it. So how does something like this look like in practice? So this may seem a bit crazy, but there are essentially three main components for this entire thing to work. On your left, you'll see what we call the event bus or the event sourcing store. So this is basically us trying to apply an event sourcing um, pattern to the way that we're designing the communications between the various microservices. I'm not going to go too deep into what exactly something like that, what exactly is a system like that look like, but there are specific properties that make it incredibly interesting for us. In terms of, we have a centralized global ledger that records domain facts, which kind of brings us back to the whole idea of domain-driven design. And those facts are essentially the events that kind of happen within the system, and they're all basically collated and registered in the event store. And from that perspective, we technically don't need databases anymore. They become ephemeral, and they also become very much created to serve a very, very specific microservice. Another important aspect is CQRS as well. Again, I'm not going to go too much into detail of what exactly does that mean, but an interesting property of that particular pattern is the ability for us to separate reads from writes, um, which you can see here from our GraphQL component there, where we are essentially splitting mutations, which are writes, from queries, which are reads, and we can scale them separately. Uh, we have noticed as we were building and as the payment system is currently live and working, that we are much more read focused. So being able to scale that is actually very interesting. And the third aspect is our GraphQL layer, essentially, because it kind of gives us a way to abstract away the logical connections between how the backend systems work, and we can essentially start federating a lot of how the front end applications as well as our merchants, and we can create schemas, very specific schemas for all of those individual clients. So all of this stuff gives us a lot of capability on how we actually deal with uh, essentially a payments rail. So how exactly does something like this work uh, in practice? So let's imagine someone authorizes a payment authorized uh, event or fact gets registered on the system, goes to our payments microservice, which processes that specific payment. Once it is complete, it generates another event, which again gets registered as a fact on our event sourcing system. And we have a number of systems that might be interested in that specific fact. One of them could be a notification system that tells our user how that their payment was complete, and the other one is our rewards system, which is where our crypto side starts to come in. So based on that payment, we can calculate how much crypto we want to reward that user. And once that is calculated, we can essentially generate a new system event called rewards created, which our crypto system can pick up and assign that calculated number of bitcoins in this specific case to our end users, and then they can potentially get notified of that fact. So how does this actually look like in practice? So this is basically it. So when you go to a merchant that supports Mode as a payment processor, you'll basically see this widget that you see here. From this widget, people can scan the QR code, and they will open the app, the Mode app, and they can authorize the payment there and there. The payment gets executed immediately, and they are again immediately rewarded with Bitcoin based on their purchases. If they don't have the app, we actually offer an alternate payment method using open banking, which uses the user's own bank or banking app, depending on which bank they have, to authorize said payments. And once that authorization goes through, the exact same process happens, and they get paid in Bitcoin. Even if they are not registered as a Mode user, we still collect that information. So if later on they do decide to create an account with us, we will backdate and give them their Bitcoin rewards based on those purchases. So that kind of basically covers a little bit of uh, how we kind of designed our systems in order to be able to create not only payments rail, but also hook up crypto rewards, so that we can essentially reward our users for their day-to-day purchases. Thanks, everybody. Why start with automation and DevOps first? That's actually very simple. That's actually very simple because those are the fundamentals. Like you cannot start building complex systems without thinking about the automation of how you actually deploy and how you actually deal with the life cycle of that specific piece of software, right? Um, the main issue that you start having when you're designing complex microservices is it's not just about deploying it. It's about how do we actually support once it's actually in production? Like how do you monitor that something does work? How do you make sure that even if something does fail, how do you know that it failed? How do you recover
Mm.
from failure? And automation is first and foremost in answering all of these things. So one of the things that we do on our side is canary releases, for instance. For those that aren't aware what canary releases are, every time we deploy a piece of software, we push it to production and we have a grace period where we start monitoring the behavior of that system. And if for whatever reason the behavior starts to fail or starts to not behave in ways that we expect it to behave, and it is defined in the automation parameters, the cluster will automatically roll it back to a previous version. And we can do that by controlling the amount of traffic that it actually consumes. So once it's out there, you essentially feed it a percentage of traffic, like 5% of traffic. And based on that behavior, you can start increasing it or decreasing it. Um, and that in on itself, you can do it fully automatically. Like you can write it, you can write automation and DevOps around all of that stuff. And this is just an example. This is a lot of people like to think of DevOps as CI/CD, but it's not at all. It's not at all that. It's a lot more complex. So these are the fundamental questions that you kind of have to answer and think about when you're dealing with complex systems as a whole.
Okay, thank you. And we have another question. So let's do this one.
Let's say that I'm still learning about it. That's how simple. It's very, very simple. It's one of those. Um, it seems simple, but it's moving so quickly now, and people are finding so many different ways of playing with the blockchain, like the NFT craze, for instance. In fact, just now I had a conversation with um, with a company where they were just trying to explore, how can we actually get into this whole crypto and offer ways for people to actually purchase things and potentially get NFTs back. Because a reward doesn't have to be Bitcoin. A reward can be anything. It can be in the form of an NFT. It could be, hey, you just got a random thing. You can convert it into whatever you want. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with that, and it's just a rabbit hole, right? Like the more you kind of look into it, the more complex it becomes. But yeah, to answer your question, it's very, very, very deep.
Great. Just another one that I'll put here.
We use the concept of hot wallets and warm wallets. So we have a warm wallet with an amount of Bitcoin, and we basically automate the process to make sure that the hot wallet is fed. We don't technically transfer the Bitcoin on every transfer because that's just a waste and it's actually very, very expensive. We essentially update a ledger, and based on that ledger, if people want to withdraw or move money away from the hot wallet, then at that point we actually act on it and we create the transaction.
Yeah. And another one.
It's just UK for now. So we had the Euro account before Brexit, but with the regulators, we had to stop. So it may come back in the future, but for now, we're UK only. Blame the regulators.
And one last one. We have time for one more.
We work, I want to say, last time I checked, it was between 40 and 50 merchants. Most of them are from our biggest partner, the Hut Group, THG. So all of their merchants work with us. Plus, we have a bunch of other ones, but it's about 40 or 50.
To do a quick follow-up on that, how is to get acquisition of the user? Do they see that widget and say, like, yeah, okay, I'll scan? Is it fairly easy to engage?
It has been. It depends a lot. So there are a few pain points, especially around open banking,
Yeah.
which there's nothing that we can do about it. It is a standardized flow and process that we kind of just have to go through because of regulatory purposes. But essentially, at the flow, the way it looks like is you see mode button at checkout, the same way you see like a Visa or Mastercard, or Klarna or any other way of making payments. When the user clicks on it, you essentially see the widget that I've showed you in my presentation. And from there, they can either scan or they can continue the flow online and just do an open banking payment.